Oh.
Use your mics tonight if you.
All right, so we're gonna. Yeah, I was just told that. Thanks. So tonight we're going to look at two things, and the first part of it is going to be a design review of the Phase 1 field and infrastructure relocation, and then after that, CHA is going to do an update of the value engineering, and we'll have a bunch of information. We're going to try and get through the first part in like a half hour if we can. So let's see what we got. So.
Can I jump in here, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to give you everybody an overview of Phase 1, what Phase 1 is and why it is, how it came about, and the benefits it has to the overall project. So Phase 1 is really a major undertaking related to utility relocations, and it's going to take a whole lot of effort to bring in the new infrastructure to the site to make the new school happen. I think we all know that the existing infrastructure, stormwater management, electrical service, the sewer is all aging at its life and certainly needs to be replaced. So we would not recommend tapping into an existing system. So with that, we need to bring in all new utilities, and I think that's for the betterment of the project and the life cycle of the building. It looks like lines on paper, but it's a lot of earth movement, it's a lot of digging, and it's a lot of time. So our proposal to start Phase 1 with this utility relocation is something that we've been implementing on many projects to help us get a head start. Think of it as saving, at the end of the day, 6 months or more from the project duration. And think about inflation to the overall project, and it's a substantial amount of money that we're saving. With that comes some domino projects like we have here today, which are the field relocations. So while architects are really good at making those things look good, we're not really good at making the more important things look good, which are the utility lines and the sewer lines and those things. So Phase 1 emphasis is on utility relocation. You'll see that there's a map, and we'll get into the next slide, which shows it a little in more detail as far as the important things. But that purple box is the new building footprint. That maroonish, brownish box is the existing building. And all those green lines that have clouds around them are the new infrastructure that we're bringing into the site. So it's important for us to get this started, to save that time, to save that money, and then the domino project is to relocate that baseball field. So you'll see a couple options there. And I'll just say, when you see the baseball field, there is a building being constructed right now by the developer of whatever the development that is. We have incorporated that building into what you see tonight. So it's not like don't think we're bulldozing it over, we're incorporating that. And I'll let Bill take it from there, unless, Mike, you have some other things.
Just one more thing to add just to hammer home what Randy was saying, and agree with everything that he said, but on the back part of the site, utilities and access overlap. Yeah, so, and that's both construction access and then permanent access. And so doing those utility work, relocations, and also doing the initial rear site access road work before the building even gets started allows us to have that in the rearview mirror and focus on the building construction, which sets us up for success for getting kids back in on day one. So that's all part of Phase 1, fields, the infrastructure. The contractors would have use of that rear access road as well, which would get materials in and out a lot easier. So just one more point just to add.
Next slide. So basically what we need to relocate in order to build the new high school is the varsity baseball field, and we're relocating the softball, varsity softball field, 2 turf fields where the practice field was, and then a new grass baseball field where the softball field was. So we lose a little bit of parking there, but we gain parking overall on the site.
Yeah,
And
and
then-
can we actually go back to the last slide? I just want to jump in here. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, that's good.
So we went through a process of really thinking about what is best long-term for I guess, the diamond sports. And when you look at that upper field, which we're proposing as a new varsity softball field, it really made it hard to put another large baseball field or baseball diamond there. But we felt that it made a whole lot of sense to put the varsity sports together. So you'll see in a few slides how we've combined that venue, and you really can come and watch both softball and baseball at the same time. And then with putting the what would be the junior high baseball field where the varsity softball field is now, we do lose that parking lot, but we were able to get a field large enough for competitive play at that junior high level there. We were not able to get that over across the street. So.
Yeah, that's good. So on the next slide, Nathan's going to start walking us through what we call a master plan for the diamond sports. I like that term.
And I'm going to jump in here again, too, because there was a comment made, I think, Brian, you might have made it at the last board meeting, where did something came from? We've been working through this at the office. Some of this are things that we have presented in the past, but the point of this ad hoc committee meeting is for us to present these thoughts and ideas. So if there's any questions or comments, certainly welcome the dialogue, and think of it as a working session, not a, hey, this is what we're going to do session.
Yeah, and one of the first approaches we wanted to take was take a step back out of the site and realize what all this site can be. And it's not saying that everything's going to be built, but we wanted to see the possibilities of what this diamond complex could be, and what the fields need to operate as well. So with baseball and softball, we wanted to dive in and look at the core element of what is needed, and it was discussed of creating both of them as turf fields. And then with supplementary elements of bullpens and batter's eyes and scoreboards, along with dugouts as well. So we started to incorporate those in, and with talking with other parties, realizing that we need batting cages. And then with that, we wanted to see what seating capabilities we could have, along with what elements we could really set this apart. So we'll see a plaza in between the baseball and softball field. What we wanted to do there was create an element that you could not only watch baseball, but you could watch both elements at once. With the school, you have plenty of parents with kids in both sports that gives them an opportunity while both games are going on to have a centralized zone there to watch both kids at once.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I didn't have a softball player, but I used to always run across the street and watch both at the same time anyway. But what you're seeing here is really, it looks like a lot because a lot of things are red boxes, but some of those things are like batting cages and bullpens. There's really nothing here that you see from a functional component doesn't already exist today at the existing field. The one item that you see, that field house, was originally there was a field house planned to be where we're showing it right now. So that's why that square little bump out piece fits kind of perfectly. So when you think about that, remember that was, I think, something that was maybe cut out of this overall complex before because of the distance so far away from the existing school. So we are looking at that as an option for phasing, maybe perhaps using it for gym class to help us get through the construction process, and even using it for some storage during construction.
And also, both of the fields, the way they're being constructed with the artificial turf, allows them to be used by almost any sport. So the soccer team, with the addition of the lights, it gives you till sort of 9 o'clock at night. Those two fields can host other sports for practice sessions. At the same time, the field house being used as a phasing element when the gym comes down early helps the field sports remain having locker rooms and trainers on site. It also allows an area of refuge out there if there's, dangerous inclement weather or a security incident. So there's a lot of different uses for the field house beyond just athletics.
We're not talking about lining those baseball fields for anything else. They might be, because they're turf, they might be utilized, but they're just going to be,
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put out some cones and
Right,
know your
okay.
rough
Okay.
areas. Yeah.
We want to go to the next slide. We start to think about this in 3D then of what all these elements start to be extruded on the site. I know we have some grading issues out there and different topography we wanted to play with. But there we can start to see how these elements really come into effect into the 3D then.
Yeah, and I'll just add some details too. For those of you who did the tour of the Wilkes-Barre Area School District, a lot of these elements that we are showing here really came from that trip to new facilities that have currently been built.
Yeah, and we did incorporate some of the covered grandstands, and if we flip to the next side, you can start to see where all the seating is coming into play. We wrote down some quick numbers here. For the softball field, as it's currently programmed, we have 100 hardback seats with 125 bleacher seats for a total of around 225 Patreon seating. And then for the baseball field, we have 150 hardback seats with 200 bleacher seats. And this came from conversations of holding tournaments along with going to states and drawing the crowds there. And that comes into play with the entry and ticket booths being constructed as well as with those state tournaments having to have tickets, and it's a way to control the Patreons coming in.
Yeah, so if you look at that entrance, I think it's the next, or the slide before, if you can go back to that, one more back, two back, right there. No, one more, right there. So if you look at that spot in the center, there's like an entrance gateway. That would be one central gateway for both fields where you can have a control point. That building to the right is actually the restroom building that's being built right now, and we're incorporating that into the new gateway. So we think it works out pretty well. And then a plaza there that can congregate a number of people, including multiple teams, waiting to get on the field and off the field. Can you go to the next slide? So then, just looking at the overall complex, we're looking at, again, architects are really good at making things like this look good, but we're really talking about just pre-bought pieces for bleachers, even things that could probably just be bought off of co-stars. This isn't like a custom-built precast structure or anything like that, but just aluminum bleachers. You see the bullpens are just turf, and like you would see at any modern-day field, and the dugouts are really what you see out there at the existing baseball field today. Let me go to the next slide. Oh, there's a question? Yeah.
I just have one question. Following up the stadium lights you're having there, and since the field's close to Greenwood Avenue and there's some residential properties there, I know you'll do like a light analysis probably on the downtown, but
Yep.
can you just kind of factor those things in?
Yeah. For those of you listening at home, the question was, we're close to Greenwood Avenue and neighboring properties. With the lights for the field, will we take that into consideration when we do the analysis? Between Greenwood and 22. And the answer is, yeah, we will. We'll take that in. We'll make sure there's no spillage, and we'll make sure that we're gonna, the beauty behind putting these two varsity fields next to each other is we do believe that we can share in the lightage and lighting poles, so we're not building so many standards. So we will look at that as well. So this is a view of looking into the softball field. We put a little canopy over top of some grandstands before the press box. If you look at that box in there, that's just a pre-bought box that just drops in on top of bleachers, very much like we did at Cottingham. I'm sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
And then going into the dugouts, just showing again, it's pretty much your basic cast-in-place concrete walls along with a stick frame roof there. And then, as Randy stated earlier, we like to make things look pretty, so we threw in some couple of accessories that we can start to visualize what these dugouts can be, and it helps convey to you guys what this space can be. If we want to flip to the next.
Yeah, and if I could just say here, if you look at this slide, you'll see, modern baseball fields today just use a netting, not a chain link fence like you see and like we have today for the backstop. So we're really just looking at some pole standards and some netting like you would see at any baseball game, any modern venue, and then a simple backstop along the grandstands. We are going to take advantage of the concourse that's up high behind that where the press box is, so there will be a little press box area up there as well. Is there a question? Please.
If I may just jump in quickly, Greg and Carm, this is an open forum, so if you have questions or comments, feel free to just chime in. Thanks.
You want to flip to the next one? So with this view, we start to see how the different grades can come into play as we start to have a recessed field into there and then have the bullpen next to it. What's hard to see in this image is the grades are coming up right to the back of those walls there, and sits at that same level as the concession building, as you can see behind it. We wanted to capitalize these areas and try and create congregation points that you can see into what's happening on the field, and gives that sense of safety. And if there's a big tournament going on, keeping track of your field, kids, keeping track of all the little ones running around. But we wanted to recess this baseball field, and we show, I think in the next slide here, go 3 more actually. Yep, right there. Where this plaza starts to live, as the baseball field is recessed, the softball field is recessed, and this plaza starts to become raised up and creates those viewing points from the top there.
So as an accessible point between two fields, it's a really nice area. It provides cover from the elements, but at the same time, it provides good view shed for anyone who has accessibility issues.
And that's the place where everyone's going to run to when it starts raining, right there.
Now we can flip back 2 slides. Next one. Yep. So we started to look at what was being laid out in this field house area, and talking with coaches and staff here, we really wanted to put in a locker room area along with a remote trainer's office in this location for the sports out there. The large turf area becomes that multi-use area where rainy days, your sports are able to still practice, gym class is able to get in there, and it's an area of refuge as well. It is a very large area in there. For perspective, we didn't dash it in there, but you can fit a whole baseball infield in that little section in there. It's about 40 yards by 40 yards, so not only can those sports use it, football can get in there, band can get in there, and just becomes this big multi-use area.
And so we're thinking this structure is just a simple, pre-engineered, like pole structure. Would be steel, not wood, but something just simple for cover. We could look at it, and I think we will need to look at it as part of our phasing plan for the overall project. And then, as Nathan mentioned, there's a couple of locker rooms, 2, but there's also a lot of sports who would use the facility, so I don't know that there would be a common ownership to these other than there would be a place for to store things. I know, even junior high kids using the fields, they come from school with their book bags, and it's rainy and muddy, and they're at the dugout, so this would give them a place to put those things. If you go to the next slide. Okay, just keep going.
Just quick, one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this just basically one floor?
Yeah, just one.
Okay, and then the
One
field area obviously would be
higher.
higher, and then it's just one ground floor of, looks like an office and the
Correct.
lockers, basically.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. We're just showing this here because what's one thing that is nice about the existing high school is there's the little portico area out underneath the auxiliary gym for people to congregate when it rains and to store equipment. We are showing that same sort of thing out here. So that's a place that some equipment can happen, and they could even be caged and use it as some open storage. But you can see the plaza area. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the entrance gate. It has 2 ticket booths. Again, it's our first pass at it. But if you look all the way to the right, that's the existing building that's being built. We've incorporated that in. It'll probably look nothing like this at the end of the day, since this is the first pass. But this is just showing you what our initial thoughts are related to marking the entrance.
So Randy, the new bathrooms, which would at this point be the existing bathrooms, would be for the public,
Correct.
correct? And then inside the field house, that would just be for student athletes, either home or away, or
That's
probably
cor-
all home.
That's correct, yep. And if you go to the next slide. That's the image we just showed you. That shows you the center canopy, which could be a place for teams to congregate and fans to congregate. Place for shade, place for cover. We're going to be doing a lot of earth movement here for utilities and such. So the thought is that we would use that earth spoils to build up this area and not truck that off the site. And that's the last slide. I guess we'll open it up for questions related
Just
to
a
this.
couple quick
Yep.
hits, just sort of what's next for this phase as far as the design end of things. And so there are a bunch of big hurdles or question marks that we're still working out. One being, how do we integrate the permanent civil layout with, including the new building, storm line, wastewater management lines, with this phase 1? So we have to do a lot of, we being Colliers, has to do a lot of design work and engineering to make sure that any early utilities that we do now are also the permanent utilities that will be at the end of the project. So that's a big job for them. Along those lines, figuring out the exact scope of phase 1, exactly what utilities, what infrastructure is included, and then how can we be most efficient in this phase? So what cuts can we do to the fields, fill-wise, and then use those spoils for the building? Because we have a large area in front of the building to fill at the end. So can we take advantage of this first phase fill or cut work? And how do we integrate the field house? Because right now, there's not a specific line item in the budget, in the schematic design budget, but there is money that was incorporated elsewhere for phasing, for utility work. So how do we best bid a field house and the strategies for that? Is it an alternate in the main building phase? That's a possibility to discuss, or just best ways to integrate it. So there's a lot to do between now and when College of Engineering wants to submit for preliminary land development sketch plan, which would be this fall. And then later this fall, they would want to be submitting to the Conservation District. So a lot of things still to happen. That's all.
So I think at this phase, any questions from our board members who are here, the rest of the team, audience?
I kind of like the last idea, the field house thing, if you could integrate that more into when you're doing the actual school building, it's probably get a better place on it. And right now, there's not enough field house anymore. So it'll allow you to at least continue with the fields and stuff.
One thing is, though, there is no line item in the budget for a field house. So it's gonna take some creativity to find how to integrate that into this whole plan and the budget that we put in, so.
Do we have a cost estimate on the field house component?
I can tell you that it's very similar to one we just did at Pocono Mountain West. And that cost was, that building was a gym with 3 courts, finished floor, a little more than what we would do here, and that was around $5 million.
I would say the important thing is to focus on being as simple as possible, like you said, Randy, simple pole building, a lot of prefab to keep costs down. I think that's important.
Yeah, and along those lines, Ken, I know we discussed it at a preliminary meeting of if there's opportunities to reuse some existing equipment, scoreboard as a simple example, if it is still in good condition, it might not be, but just those questions to make sure that we can be efficient with this new building.
So this isn't necessarily the question, but I guess I'm looking at it as right now, what is housed at the high school? And some of those things that are at the high school for the baseball, softball, those kinds of things are not going to be there. So for example, the hitting cages and things that have been purchased that are in the gym, there is no place for them. So this is some of those things that will move to this so-called field house.
Yeah, and the other thing to note too, and I know Randy touched on it, is that this would be incorporated likely into our phasing in somehow, because there's gonna be, multiple seasons. I mean, we were looking at like, sometime late winter through the summer where the existing building, the existing gym area, auxiliary gym, those locker rooms where the trainer resides, our weight room, where that's gonna have to be demoed early. And the building's still gonna be occupied. So where do we go with all those, spaces that, you know, the students in the building need as well as the student athletes need? And, you know, the field house would be a key place for them to move temporary, and in the end, someone would just stay there. So, you know, I think it's a key part of the phasing, whether it's built either in this first phase or it's built early on in the second phase, the larger scope. You know, it's gonna be an important piece, I think, that we're gonna need to utilize, especially for athletics, as those spaces are demoed early.
I guess my question is twofold. One, as an assistant athletic director running events all over the place, and then as the baseball coach with Carm, the aspect of that field house that you're talking about. Basically, what I'm envisioning is like a pole barn, correct? Like a big pole barn. But you're gonna need, when I hear you talk about phasing, for the first couple of phases, at least for that phase while you're building a baseball field, soccer field, and those, that's gonna be an area for you to store things, right? And then it'll be converted into a field house?
It's either one are possibilities, but we'd have to work through what makes the most sense.
That's the way
Yeah.
I would say, so,
Yeah.
so thinking about that, if it is an area where you're storing things,
Mhm.
that's really not gonna be a field house until down the road.
Yeah, and the critical piece being the demolition of the existing gym and aux gym of the existing building,
Right.
using, you know, the field house, if it being built at that time, would be used completely by the district. It wouldn't be used by the construction team, so
Thank you.
that would be the handoff.
Any other, excuse me, any other questions before we move on?
The one thing that I saw in the design, especially for the junior high baseball field, it looks like the layout that you have would it would push into the existing retaining wall on the band field.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think it pushes into the parking lot.
Just into the parking lot. It doesn't
Yeah.
go past that. I mean, there's a sizable retaining
Yeah,
wall.
we wouldn't touch that retaining wall.
So you would hold that
Yeah,
retaining wall there?
yeah.
Because I mean, generally, it's in okay condition, that existing retaining wall. It's, but yeah, that would impact then that upper field.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we are showing it over top of that.
Yeah, maybe we could just
Yeah, we're
verify.
coordinating that with Civil as we speak, and we're trying to make sure that it's still gonna be a usable field, and we're still trying to fine tune exactly where that's gonna leave, but the main goal right now is to try and keep that, to not have to reconstruct that and regrade all that area down
Yeah,
there.
sounds like we're on the same page.
I mean, we're gonna play it off the wall.
The green monster, red monster.
Yeah, it is red.
So, one question that I do have, so the bathrooms that are currently being built that are for the public, in the new design, those are behind the gated, ticketed area. But if you're at a JV baseball or softball game and you want to go to the bathroom, you still need to be able to access that building that's being constructed. So I don't know how you want to think about that with the design, but I think that's an important component.
Yeah, I think it's probably a functional question, but I would say the only time I would think the fields would be open all at the same time. And the only time you're going to do some sort of pay to get in would be for some other event that's not using both sides of like a tournament or something like that. But that's a good question. We'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at those restrooms, and currently they do open up to the parking lot. So we're trying to play with that and figure out exactly how the program works in that area, where the fencing goes and how both the pedestrians in the baseball, softball, but also where the JV
Yeah,
fields
so,
would be.
so maybe the JV just can use it all the time, and then if you're at a varsity event, you just go out to use them.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, so upcoming, as mentioned earlier, am I okay going into the schedule? Okay, so this is our fourth ad hoc update, and like I said, this is, meant to be a working session, so some things you and the public may see are new, but that's kind of the idea here. We have a scheduled board action on September 30th for Plan Con A and B, and if you were at the last board meeting, I kind of presented what that means, and that's really just what is by the Department of Education called the project justification, and we are going through that because we have to get to an Act 34 hearing. We are going to continue to pursue funding and grant opportunities. If you listen to the news, those are hard to come by these days, but we are continuing that process. We'll continue to develop our timeline. The budget and site and traffic studies are ongoing. We continue to have our biweekly design meetings, and we'll continue to do community outreach as requested by the district. And pass it over to Mike.
All right. Yeah, I think we're ready for the second PDF slide deck. Awesome. You can move on. So now to what I'll say is the thrilling part of the presentation compared to baseball fields and infrastructure. No. If you guys were here for our last VE exercise, this will be more contained. It won't be 200 items. It'll be probably two dozen items. So just a reminder of what value engineering is, why we're here, why we're discussing this, and why it's in schematic design. We're trying to maximize the value of the building. This happens informally all the time in the design process, but by formalizing it in schematic design, we're sort of checking that everyone's doing their job, but also proving that there are certain ways that we can save money, both life cycle and construction costs, but also improve the function, quality, performance, and safety of the building. So the next slide, please. It's just kind of a review, because this will be our last VE meeting. What we've accomplished to date, we had our kickoff meeting at the beginning of July, where members of the board, the public, the school district, Alley 5, CHA, Snyder Hoffman, the MEP engineer, Collier's Engineering, the civil engineer, and Ruther Bowen, who is the structural engineer, have all participated in this process over the past month and a half. So we had our kickoff meeting where we kind of discussed that first slide in more detail. And then we went into the creative phase where everyone was given the task to come up with ideas of how we can maximize the value of the building. And we generated over 200, I think it was 229-ish. And then from that, the last ad hoc meeting was we went through them one by one, and we decided what were zeros, rank 0, which were, didn't make sense for the project, what were ranked 3s, which are no-brainers and are being incorporated in the project already, our best design practices, or we will incorporate right after that meeting, or ranked a number 2, which is we need more analysis to determine if these are worth pursuing. So those 2s are why we're here today, to discuss them in more detail. So that's what's been going on the past 2 weeks. We've had a bunch of meetings with Jim Hanna and myself, our estimating team, to try and put tangible numbers to each of these line items.
And our consultants.
And our consultants too. Yeah, bunch of meetings and not just cost line items, but also what's the design function, use, performance, budget, and schedule impacts by changing certain elements of the design. And that's where we are right now tonight, which is our our development meeting, where we'll review the items ranked as 2, based on that analysis from the design team, which has been, I thought, a really good conversation over the past 2 weeks. I think it's helped drive the design forward and bring more detail to the design as well. The next slide, please. So just more about what we're doing tonight and the analysis done so far. There were 65 items that were ranked as number 2, and 34 of those we've determined with agreement from Alloy 5 and their consultants that we don't have enough info tonight to make any decisions. You know, the design isn't far enough along, which is perfectly normal. Some examples are that the HVAC design for certain areas of the building, like the gym and the auditorium, how do we want to handle that specifically? Does it want to be part of a centralized chiller plant, or is there a way to have it be its own, what's called a DX unit, where you're basically heating and cooling from a single unit on the rooftop? The Senator Hoffman, the MEP engineer, still needs more time to kind of analyze the pluses and minuses of both of those, and also work with Ken and operationally how we'd handle that. So that's just an example of a number 2 that we don't have enough info tonight. Well, sorry, you can go back still. 34 yet will be further review, and then 5, about, give or take, we thought would be good alternates during the bid process. You'll see 1 or 2 of those in the spreadsheet tonight. And then the remaining 26 items that's what we're reviewing tonight. It's not too many, I promise. All right, next slide. We have basically 4 choices. With those 26 items, we can either A, all decide as a team if we want to include that item in the design, B, exclude it from the design, C, hey, this makes sense as an alternate so we can see the actual live cost at bid day, or D, hey, we still don't have enough information yet, let's hold it for design development. If we do hold it for design development, that means we're still meeting regularly with the design team, both at our bi-weekly schematic design meetings, but also at other scheduled meetings to see how these things make sense. The next steps after tonight, we will finalize and distribute the spreadsheet that we talk about tonight to the district and the team. And then in about a month's time, we'll publish the final VE report. And at the end of September, give or take. It'll have our executive summary, the spreadsheet, the whole spreadsheet, cost backup data, a tabulation of the value added and the costs saved based on all these line items. It takes a long time to add costs to about the 100 or so number 3 items. So that's what our estimating team is working on now. It's not worth discussing tonight since we've already agreed that those make sense in the design, but that's the work happening on the back end. And then just a final statement, the VE process is never over. We'll continue to do it informally during schematic design development, and throughout the whole project. But we won't have this kind of formal, rigorous session. I think the next slide, just Randy kind of already talked about the upcoming schedule, but just a reminder, next Tuesday at 1 p.m. we'll have our regularly scheduled meeting, design meeting with the design team. The 9th is the standing committee meeting for the board and discuss PlanCon at that point as well. And then we're kind of on a bi-weekly routine again for design development meetings. All right, any questions about just sort of the lay of the land for VE before we get into it tonight? Great. All right, I think we're ready to hop over to the spreadsheet. Cool. All right, let me just, everyone can kind of read that. It's not too small. Everyone's got the right eyeglasses on. There's no great way to do it, so this is what we're going to do.
Thanks for making it look good for us, though, Mike. Appreciate that.
All right. Okay, so the first item, provide alternate bid for 2-year warranty in lieu of a 1-year warranty. Standard in a project for contractors across the board is a 1-year warranty on all items. There are certain items that in the bid will get extended warranties, major HVAC equipment being the main one. But we've had some success on projects to double the warranty period for other selected items. So I'll scroll over here. Just a bookkeeping note, if you see it in red, that means it's a cost add. it's a little bit flipped of what some estimates might be, but red is a cost add, and then black is a savings. We determined that it'd be about a $1.15 million cost add to do an add alternate to put a 2-year warranty blanket on everything. For discussion is, we don't need to do a 2-year warranty on everything. There are certain things that we've seen over and over again that get used really hard and that have really, that are used hard before turnover and also are high interaction points. Door hardware is one. Just the HVAC system, all components in general being another one. Maybe some lighting as well be a third one, but so we could strategically implement in the contract what items we want to have line items for a 2-year warranty. I don't know if Randy, Bill, or Bruce, you have any?
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
sorry, I was just going to say that
I just want to say something, just real quick. So what we found on this is, this is really a wild card. You don't know what you're gonna, get. You really gotta strategically write, if we want a 2-year warranty on something like, door hardware is a good one. It's gonna be used during construction and after construction, and it gets used hard. So if we can strategically target some things, it may be worthwhile keeping. And it probably won't be that number, but anyway.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the standard practice is that the contractors provide a 1-year warranty for these items. So that's incorporated in every bid, 1 year. That's not, your equipment warranties that you get and those things. It's just like a general sort of warranty for those things. So, well, like these gentlemen were saying, that it is a bit of a wild card, because if a contractor feels you're going to take it, they give you a really good number for it. And if it is a good enough number, it could sway the bids in their favor for it, so.
And just a final note, just generally for all these items, just because we say we're accepting this tonight as an alternate or into the design, that's not, we're not leaving here and it's locked in stone. So these are estimates in the schematic design phase. They're from our estimators who have a lot of experience doing this, but, there's a long time between now and when we go out to bid, so just.
And if we say alternate, that means on bid day, you're going to get a price for it, and the board will act on whether to accept it or not.
Yeah, I would say generally, I've seen this as an alternate. In my mind, I think it's a good alternate to have. I have seen a $0 ad at bid day, when you receive bids for this. So, I don't, 1.1 there, is a big number that you see, and, maybe that could be, you could see that on bid day, but like Randy noted, I've already seen it as a $0 ad, and then you're basically getting a 2-year warranty for nothing. So in my mind, I would include it. I guess we can talk about and have a discussion either later in design or tonight on what would be included in that, or if it would just be everything. But, my recommendation would be this. I think this is a great alternate to have, because you never know what you're going to get. And if it's a big number and they're all like up there, a couple $100,000 or $1 million, then the board just doesn't select it.
I know nothing about building, but I have a quick question. When does the warranty actually start? Does it start day that it's installed, but, the school opens, the school's a year from opening, day of reception, that the items come in and you don't put them in for 6 months? Again, maybe that's a wild card as well. I don't know anything about
No,
building
it's a
construction.
it's
And
a good
I
question.
do believe, gentleman in the audience had a question
Sure.
too, so
But-
make sure we pass to him.
Yeah, I'll answer yours first. It's a good question. It's definitely not a wild card for the warranty. It's explicitly listed out for each scope of work in each spec section when that warranty starts. The typical warranty starts at substantial completion.
And that's
So that-
important,
Yeah.
because if we're going to do this in multiple phases and even turn the building over in multiple phases, that substantial completion date may vary,
Yeah.
depending on what that is. But that's a great question.
And substantial completion is just when you can use the building. So that's,
My question kind of follows the same thing, but I didn't know whether you were gonna do it on a year from when the contractor installs, or whether you're gonna do it a year from the time the CO is issued. Because if you do the CO and you do it for the whole building, as opposed to doing it in little partition things, you're gonna get at least a year out of the whole thing.
Yeah, we typically consider like when the CO, when you get a CO, it's substantially complete for the most part.
So we're saying is that there would be a 1.15 addition for us to incur the cost to get the second-year warranty,
Potentially.
potentially. My question is if we don't get the warranty, do we have any type of analysis of what it would cost us to replace those items?
Yeah,
You weren't real quick to click your microphone on that one.
yeah, no, it's a good question, and it would depend on how what items are covered under that 2 years. So we can definitely do a takeoff for door hardware, and obviously that'd be a blanket 2-year warranty for all door hardware. It'd be insane to see every piece of hardware fails on the job within the first year, but.
No, yeah, and we would still keep a 1-year warranty in
Correct,
this case.
yeah.
Right, my thing is just the thought process of, yeah, I see that the money's up there, but what is the cost that we would incur if we don't do it? And if there's been any type of comparison, right?
You're just,
So
by,
it's just the thought of
Yeah.
people to not just get scared by that number, it's the thought process of
right,
what
it
we
could
would
be,
have to
it could be
replace.
less than that number
It could be
there.
less than that, and we could be paying more for what we would have to replace.
Right, and
That's
you're
what I'm saying.
basically minimizing risk, you know what I mean? The value of that, whatever it is, is it worth it or not? And then, you never know. I always think about sometimes equipment startups, like pumps or chillers that are started up, before the building is substantially complete, so you can put finishes in, and so those things are up and running. And, you get in and say you got the data substantial completion and you're 13 months in, and then you have an issue, but that unit was actually running for 16 months, for 18 months, Now, that piece of equipment might have its own manufacturer's warranty, but it's worked in our favor in the past on other equipment in district, I can tell you.
And again, just keep in mind that there's no real documentation, in other words, stuff that has to go on a drawing to prepare this. This would be an alternate that's written. Am I correct, Randy, that? So the architect or anybody doesn't really need to know this now to implement it in the design.
And then just one point of clarification, so all these numbers that are in red, you said are additional expense, as a change order, or whatever we decide to do there, are they figured into our current bottom line budget, or they would be above and beyond that 300 million budget?
Yeah, it's a good question, too. Currently, these are not in the budget, so both the savings and the ads. It would be in the bid itself, so it wouldn't be like a change order after the bid, but these are not factored in the schematic design budget.
Yeah.
Your estimated cost as you sit here today.
Correct, yeah.
So in the bid would be 1 year, and then an alternate that the board would act on would be 2. And then at that time, the beauty behind the alternate is you can see the value and make that decision, exactly what Mrs. Hess had mentioned. If it's $200,000, you could say, well, you think there's going to be $200,000 worth of items to be fixed over that second year or not, and then you make the decision at that point.
And so what we're deciding today is do we think that there's value of including this as an alternate? And that's the estimated cost for a blanket 2-year. Yeah,
I think there's very much.
We do
value
too,
in putting
yeah.
this in alternate, for sure.
okay.
That's just me.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the wise thing. At least you know what the number's gonna be realistically.
Okay. Another potential alternate would be the require removal of all foundations and existing building components only up to 4 feet below final finished grade in lieu of an unclassified demo. So in other words, during the demolition of the existing building, do we write the contract so the demolition contractor has to remove everything, including, no matter how far down the existing building goes, footings and foundations and all, or do we say there's a line 4 feet below finished grade that they have to remove? We see it as a $100,000 savings to write it as a 4-foot line of demarcation for demo versus unclassified. If it's an alternate, again, you'll see the value at bid day, and below 4 feet, there's less of a potential for future conflicts. You know, if you just were to demo everything, then the building is 100% removed. But between 4 feet and wherever the base of the building is, there's a low chance of that anyway, so.
Yeah, and I think for those of you who were around for Cheston Elementary School, we went through this exercise there, and we did that alternate there as well.
Do you remember what, give or take, the numbers were? Not to put you on the spot.
I don't remember, maybe like 40,000,
Okay.
I think it was. Yeah, something like that. I can't, yeah,
Yeah, so
I don't recall.
our recommendation, that it doesn't hurt us to put it in as an alternate, especially if we're looking for added value for the demolition phase.
What, are you just putting it in there? No questions or
Well,
discussion?
I was waiting for anyone can jump in,
All
right?
right. I'm okay with,
Yeah.
I agree with the recommendation.
He knew that, because you said it the first time. You liked it.
Does anybody really know how much is below that 4-foot level?
I mean, obviously, you're probably gonna get foundations.
Yeah.
The other thing is, that we understand now is that even, there's a substantial fill where the old building is. So, you know, we'll be filling on top of that, correct? So it's a wise choice to keep it as an alternate. We can see what it is.
Okay. Any other comments for Randy?
I'll just say, we talked about this before, too, a lot of those existing foundation walls are retaining a lot of earth. So we'll have to go through that and see how the new grade impacts those existing retaining walls.
Yeah, regardless, some of them are probably gonna have to stay.
The next item, to add operable windows, and this would be for all classrooms, not just the ground floor, but all the classrooms. So this would be, right now in the design, none of them are operable, and you're kind of relying on the HVAC system to heat and cool the building and supply the fresh air. So this would be one operable window per classroom and offices with windows. So this would be an add of 330,000.
We had a pretty spirited conversation about this last time.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, there's an adjoining item here, and it's the second one down. What number is that? The possibility to add exit windows. So if you decide to go with the 330 for the operable windows, you wouldn't, that $129,000 for exit windows would be moved.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Sorry, so I'm not sure where the spirited conversation was had, but I'm curious to know what the conversation was.
Mr. Geiger, would you like to start that conversation?
So that was me initially saying, yes, we want operable windows, until I sat back and listened to the explanation from the experts about when those windows get open, is anybody ensuring they're getting closed? When you open those windows, you unbalance the HVAC system, and it causes some of those concerns. What I said last time was, I think some of my passion at first about yes is working in the current building and understanding that sometimes that's our only way to control some things. So I kind of relented from that passionate conversation at first to say, and sometimes I have to relent to the professionals and understand that, I would imagine, and obviously the experts can tell us this too, the exit windows, I'm sure on the first floor, maybe, at least on the first floor, would be almost required or a smart idea, but I think from the standpoint of the operable windows, I kind of have changed my passion from the initial comment because I was then educated, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that we've done these in the past where we've allowed for an operable window, keyed it so you can lock it so it can open, or you can have it so it's closed. The big thing is the screen. If you're gonna open it, you need a screen. If you're gonna use it for safety and emergency, then the screen's in the way. So it becomes a security question. But we would, we've done it on all floors, as a way to escape if you wanted to have that. And it's really a larger discussion, private discussion outside of this room, I think, for that.
any other thoughts, pro, con? it seems like a big number, but you remember it's 180 windows, and so you're paying for that operability for each one.
I'll just say it for the sake of saying it. It also allows, if you have the windows open, also allows other things to come in, especially over the summertime, and they grow, and they may be green, right? We don't say the M word in school stuff, but.
Right, I think for all of the reasons that we have said, I'm not interested in operable windows, so. And I don't need further conversation on any of the topics that we've alluded to. That's gonna be my vote going forward.
Oh, this might sound like a stupid question, but I get, and I understand operable. But I guess in an emergency, there would be a way to break a window or be able to get out that window if it was absolutely necessary on the
Yeah.
other floors?
I was saying there, you could do an operable window in each classroom that's locked. It's not you can't open it unless you absolutely had to open it, and then you could break it to open it to get out.
But you're talking about windows that are not operable, how you would then, in an
Correct.
emergency where you couldn't get through the door,
Correct.
get out.
Chair.
No, I mean, I guess that's what
Yeah,
I'm
right,
asking, is if it would absolutely, that's what I'm asking.
And the fire department could certainly smash the window.
The only thing that I would add is, all of our windows on the first floor in our district have a film. And that film is so that they're not able to be broken, from the outside going in. So it might make that difficult inside going out. You know what I mean?
Do they have any type of windows that are similar to like something with what's on the bus where you can just kind of push them out?
Yeah.
That, it would be a sealed window, but it would still be an exit type window?
I really hope that we would never have that, obviously, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, we can look at those options. I mean, there's a way to have a way out and not have it be an operable window. I think that's what we're talking about.
Any other comments on this one, Walt, before I'm just making a note?
So what are we gonna do with that one?
So sort of what I'm hearing is maybe the best decision tonight would be hold for more design development on that. And then
Yeah.
we could review security concerns, HVAC, those items. But it sounds like maybe we're favoring on not, but hold for more discussion.
Yeah, and it is safe to say we've had our first round of security review with the team, and they didn't mention it.
Rick, so I will add this item, which is two below, which is the windows just on the first floor being operable, and that would be for emergency egress. So it's a similar conversation. I don't think it's worth just repeating what we just had for the next line item. All right. Okay. Anything else for windows, or for those two operable window questions? If not, I'll move to the, just a reduction of windows glass sizes where feasible. Marginal improvement of building efficiency and cost, and the potential for some less natural light throughout. And the estimate that we're providing here is a savings to reduce interior glass bottom elevation from the finished floor, about 4 feet. So, and this would be for classrooms and offices on the interior of the building.
The design does have a lot of glass already at the 4-foot level, so the glass that does come down below the 4-foot level doesn't go all the way to the floor in, I think, only one case that I know of where it does. So we've been trying to take that value management as we go.
And so some of this cost that we're seeing tonight is what was incorporated into the estimate from schematic design, and as the design develops, that cost changes, but this is kind of how the cost stood today. So there might not be a big change in the final design because of how it's been managed throughout the process. I think this is a nice way just to save a little bit. You know, you kind of figure out how do you save $1 million, and you get kind of singles and doubles as your way through. So I think this might be a nice opportunity to accept.
I think though, let's be, because I think between when we had this meeting and talked about this, it sounds like the design team has been changing those windows. So it seems like we already took that 82,500. There may be more that we can capture there, and we'll work on that, I think.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been since your last budget, though.
Okay, all right.
So.
No, it wouldn't have
value's
been
still-
since the last
yeah.
budget, but since our VE meeting when we discussed this, yeah.
And I would be in favor of that too. I think about things from my end. If you're having interior windows going from floor to ceiling, you know, I just worry about them getting damaged and hit even, you know, by auto scrubbers or our summer cleaning, trying to finish those floors. That would just make me nervous. So I'd be in favor of 4 feet and up.
Yeah, there's still internal daylighting and I think nice opportunity for an open feeling, but this is just a way to shave those little bit of geometry that adds up over a building of this size.
I agree with
So we already took that.
Okay.
It's- We already got it.
Oops, it keeps doing
Also, people just walking into the glass.
Well, I also think about things like, I'm sure running utilities, outlets, things that you wouldn't have an option on a glass wall.
Mhm.
So, in today's day and age, we need that kind of connection.
Okay. All right. If no other comments on that one, we'll jump 2 items down since that one was the evacuation windows on the first floor, which we're going to hold for more information in design development. So line item 81, UPO or quartz tile in the corridors in lieu of terrazzo floors. For just a little more detail on quartz tile, think of it as a sturdy or more durable LVT tile, vinyl tile. And for this, we'll scroll over to the number, we'll talk about pluses and minuses. Quartz tile, they're easier to replace, lower installation and material cost. They also have a low maintenance. They also have a shorter life cycle, and they become dated much faster, and they still do get beat up in a corridor, unlike terrazzo, which will outlive us all. So the number is big, but this is for all corridors in all areas. It's a $1.8 million savings to go from terrazzo to the quartz tile.
So that's not keeping terrazzo in the commons and going to quartz in the corridors.
Correct.
That's all.
Correct.
Both ways.
We felt tonight it was easier just to see the large number and then, which probably wouldn't be accepted because I think general consensus would be you'd want the terrazzo at a minimum,
Yeah.
if not everywhere, you'd want it at your main common areas, your main entrance, you know, those spots, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just from my perspective, Mike, you know, being involved in a couple
Yeah.
other districts, actually, I would ask, is it reasonable to do, you know, to have the assumption of terrazzo in the commons and take it as an alternate for corridors?
Yeah.
To see that price difference. That would be where I would make a recommendation, where I would be comfortable.
Yeah.
My recommendation for corridors, for hallways, is always terrazzo on any floor. But if, I think a good alternate might be to have like third floor with a different floor finish in the building, since, you know, it'll be limited, you know, up on the third floor. But my recommendation is always terrazzo floors everywhere. I mean, there's reasons why they put them in high traffic areas, and they, like Mikey said, I mean, they'll outlive all of us. It lasts 100 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if we do an alternate, we can always bring back the orange carpet from the middle school. Always.
Which is now terrazzo. Which is now terrazzo. Right?
So what Ken had said, this is a good place to look at design development or later, where you can strategically do alternates for cost control. Like if the budget comes, if the bids come in and we're tight on the budget, there may be some alternates, Randy, where we could strategically say, we can live with VCT up on the third floor classroom area or in the athletic areas. You know what I mean? We could take those alternates and bring that bid number down.
Yeah.
And we used this strategy in the past at Cheston and Palmer. It was an alternate.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was in a CTC that was built in 1968 last week, and the terrazzo corridors look perfect for like day one. So you can't beat it, but it is great when you're doing this to add competition, amongst the products and the installers.
So if there's no other comments, our recommendation is to hold it for DD so we can split it up in more manageable bite-sized chunks to look at how it might work as an alternate. All right. The next item has to do with floor finishes as well. This was item of discussion for using polished concrete floors in the classrooms in lieu of VCT. Just as some context, this is a cost add, and we're saying that because as a polished concrete floor actually takes more labor and more material than regular VCT. It's not just an unfinished concrete floor that's either sealed or painted, it's polished concrete, a nice finished material, so it would actually be a cost add. We wouldn't recommend doing just an unfinished concrete floor because the wear and tear would be extreme, so.
I think what Mike's saying is there are several steps to get a good polished concrete floor. There's grinding and polishing and some texture maybe, so it's not as easy. And the floor still may crack, so.
I'll say if you go into Lowe's or Home Depot, especially when they're first built, and see those are, about as pretty as polished concrete as you can get. But from a teaching standpoint, it seems like it's a little difference, but, teaching on concrete all day and teaching on a VCT or a vinyl, it's a lot harder on your feet.
My thoughts would be that I think this type of floor finish could be used in specific areas, like an art room. I think it would be really appropriate with cleanup, maybe technology education, spaces like that. I think it's appropriate, but I would not recommend that in a typical classroom.
And that number is for all classrooms, so that's, again, 175 and change. So if we did it in selected areas, it's very nominal cost either way.
The other thing too, on the construction end, and these guys would know that, it's difficult for contractors too, because typically they lay out off the floor and then they project up. So you need to make sure that they do not do that, because any marks they put on that floor is always gonna be there. So
Yeah.
I know that's
That's a good
tough during
Well,
construction.
yeah, well, that's what we're saying, there would be a grinding process.
Yeah.
Before they would grind all that
Yeah.
off, they would have to.
On one project, we left them all in the tech classroom so they could see how they laid out the floor. But that was more of a, how do we make a
Yeah.
lemonade out of
Sometimes they
lemons?
don't write nice things on there.
So, we don't recommend going for this line item. If there's any other conversation for this one?
I guess my question is more for Kenny and the maintenance of things, just like he said. Is that something where you would want to look at? Certain areas that we would want to say, is this something we would want to do? For the maintenance, for the cleanup, for,
I would just
not
say,
in all classrooms, but in specific areas?
I would say in specific areas, like art, in my mind, that's like the first room I would go to, would be like the art classroom.
Okay, so right now, we're saying is that it's VCT in those classrooms.
I forget what we had for.
In our schematic design set, we do have certain classrooms called out as polished concrete finish.
So if he had it on there, that's not in there.
Yeah.
Those classrooms still would have polished concrete. Yeah, this is just, classrooms.
more the classrooms.
Yeah, yeah.
Small difference, but it really allows for us to sort of customize or to create difference across classrooms, because all the classrooms are the same. So by floor, it allows you to have a sort of identifiable kind of, things become a little bit different. It doesn't become monotonous. So it is a good thing.
All right. So what I'm hearing is that this is something we do not want to accept, especially since there's already some consideration for it in specific areas. Okay. All right. This one should be pretty quick. The carpet rolls in lieu of carpet tile, a potential labor savings for what is in fact just a big sheet of carpet, especially in larger areas. There was some discussion from LA5 that this might make sense in some larger areas. We figured there'd be more waste and just a slightly higher material cost, and so it'd be an add of about $72,000. I think carpet tile is pretty great product in general and works for a variety of needs, and for such a small but an add nonetheless doesn't make sense for the project. Bill or Bruce, any other thoughts for this one? Yeah, carpet tile is great. Yeah.
Yeah, carpet tile,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Another one for flooring, use of quartz tile. Again, that's kind of a step up from VCT, and we would use that in lieu of VCT in classrooms. Again, it's more durable and lower maintenance. You don't have to wax them every summer, but there is a higher upfront cost in a slightly different aesthetic. They just look a little different than VCT. They still are a tile flooring system, but we see that as an add of $325,000. We've done this as an alternate in the past for classrooms. I don't know if there's a preference from the district. I know some districts they want to wax the floors every year. They want that look, and other districts don't. Randy, if you got anything for this one?
No, I was just gonna ask, is that like a terrazzo tile? Is that what we're,
No.
no,
No, it's like,
it's just a typical quartz tile?
Yeah.
A heavier vinyl.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, heavier vinyl.
Yeah, I'd just say, in thinking all the elementary schools, VCT was preferred for the classrooms here.
Yeah, we have VCT everywhere. We don't have this type of tile. I mean, my recommendation is, VCT.
I think the new middle school edition has quartz tile in some of the hallways.
Some of the hallways,
Some
yeah.
terrazzo.
Oh, yeah, always.
And then I
Yeah.
think it has on the wall as well.
All our classrooms in district are all generally VCT. Yeah.
VCT is pretty forgiving. It doesn't show a lot of the slab underneath. Quartz tile is thinner, actually, and so it telegraphs more of the slab, which shouldn't be a big deal for a newer building, ideally. For renovations, it becomes trickier, but just another factor.
Doesn't like we're not doing
Yeah,
it.
it doesn't
No.
sound like you guys want it.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're not doing this.
Any other comments for this one?
No.
All right. Keep you moving, Jim, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Provide terrazzo stair treads and risers, terrazzo stair risers, as opposed to a painted riser on the terrazzo stairs. Less maintenance if you do the whole stair, tread and riser in terrazzo, but a higher cost. It's pretty much a straight comparison that way. And we're considering this to be a $111,000 add. I know, Ken, I think you were wanting this for the maintenance and also the durability that it provides.
Yeah, the reason why I mentioned this is just seeing wear and tear, especially at Palmer and at Cheston, where we have terrazzo tread. So the tread is what you step on, and the riser is the upright piece. So the upright piece, the riser, is just painted. And being only, I guess we're 2 years in now at Palmer, I've already had our painters go through and repaint the risers. Just because they get beat up when you go up the steps, the kids will kick them or they'll get scraped against. So that's why I had it listed as one of my VE items. It's just really aesthetics over time, and obviously it says less maintenance.
I personally really like this one because of Ken's thing. And Mike, if we can cheat a little bit, go to the bottom line. So if we go through all of these items, we're saying if we took them all, $720,000 you would have to come up with out of the budget. But you see one there for $1.2 million. That's to put sod on the entire site, okay? That's $1.2 million. Would come out of your checkbook for that. And then you got the one on the top, that was the 2-year warranty, that was 1.1 million. So if we took all the other ones,
I'll do the math for you.
you would come out
The one that you put in.
to the good. We saved $1.6 million.
Mike, can you check the carpet tile one, make sure you have it in the right? Oh, I'm
Play
with,
this one a little bit too.
yeah, I'll say that, you know, the stairs and stair treads and trying to keep them adhered, and it's a nightmare. This is just forever. It's no different than a terrazzo floor.
Yeah, like in the existing high school, we have terrazzo treads, but they have a metal nosing on them. And we've gone through already and replaced the metal nosing, and it's a difficult job, and it's high traffic areas. In my mind, it's money well spent. All those terrazzo risers, they come out all pre-made. They're basically precast, and they set them in place on the metal structure as it goes up. To me, having that is really important. If you went with a painted riser, you would walk in a year or two, and then you would see that main stair tower, and it'd be like, wow, that doesn't look that nice. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. Epoxy floor in lieu of sheet vinyl in the kitchen area. I think we had sheet vinyl, right, originally in the design?
That's what
Is
the
that-
that's
yeah.
what the sheet said.
And so the epoxy floor is a lot more durable. It's like a resinous floor. It's one room for an added cost of $40,000. I don't know, Ken, if you guys have epoxy floors in some of the other
We
schools?
don't. It's all
sheet
sheet vinyl, yeah, or quarry tile.
Yeah. Which still works well in kind of heavy use spaces.
Yeah. I mean, the sheet vinyl is nice too, because they wrap it up as the cove, and it's all welded seams. I mean, I'm okay with that, especially
Okay.
if it's less money. That's what we have everywhere else.
Any other comments on this one? I'll keep it moving.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Consider polished concrete at the auditorium seating area with carpet on the walkways in lieu of carpet flooring throughout the auditorium. Potential reduction in labor and a longer life cycle and easy maintenance, but a change in the acoustic and the aesthetics of the room. It's not a big cost swing either way.
Sorry, go back over. What was the description?
Polished concrete in the seating area of the auditorium, and so only having carpet on the walkways as opposed to carpet throughout. My recommendation is to hold this for design development when we get a better sense of the whole auditorium and how that room will look, and not to decide a specific finish at this time, but.
Is that what we have in the middle school? auditorium?
Yes,
I
yeah.
was gonna say, I think
So
that is.
I would say whatever goes underneath the seating area, you want it to be basically a no maintenance item. You do not want to put something like VCT there because you wax it before they put the seats down and then it's never waxed again because you can't do that. So you would either want carpet, obviously you would just vacuum it, or you would want like a polished concrete where there is no maintenance. So having the polished concrete was an ad
Yeah, by about 20 grand, 27.
rather than carpet tile. Right, rather than carpet?
Yeah,
I think the middle school is actually painted. I think it's epoxy paint.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's
Yeah, it's not carpet.
painted concrete.
I'll just say that we can't, it's hard to do this one as an alternate because it affects acoustics.
Yeah.
So, you know, typically if you do carpet, you would do carpet under seats that are hard seats and a hard surface under soft seats, if that makes sense.
What's in the existing one, the existing auditorium? Is that's had
I think it's all it's all carpet. I think. Is it?
Man, you're gonna,
I think it's just runners on the aisle.
yeah, it's concrete with runners on the aisle.
In front of the stage is tile.
Tile.
Because
Just looking down at that
they
today.
did a lot of that with the acoustics years ago, because there were some issues initially.
But they are the soft seats. The high school has soft seats right now, so from a sound perspective, you have the soft seats hard floor.
And what's being recommended seat-wise in this auditorium? Are there soft seats?
I recommend soft seats.
So Mike, the recommendation was to hold for the design phase? I mean,
Correct, just to make sure that all the, when we bring an acoustician on board and kind of flesh out that room more to make the decision how it integrates into the design. But
I would then also say, we're talking about soft seats throughout the auditorium, so, I mean, that's a question in itself. You want hard seats or soft seats, and I would be in favor of soft seats. I think of a 3,000 or 1,500 seat auditorium is going to be the flagship of the building for the most part. If we believe that there are soft seats, that's what we want, then the option is polished concrete, right? That's what I'm hearing.
Or you paint it,
Right, okay.
which is gonna bring maintenance again anyway.
Right.
I wouldn't hold, I would just say, do it. I mean,
That's-
if during design development, let's take the money, let's just say we're gonna spend that money now. And then if design development, we find a better way, then we can bring it to you and say, well, let's do it this way.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to. I mean,
Yeah, I
if
think
we're
that-
gonna look at soft seats, I think, my
Yeah, I
recommendation
agree.
is just go with polished concrete.
Yeah.
And build that in.
Yeah,
I know it's a little more,
it's
But I think that-
negligible,
Right.
in the size of the project, it's negligible.
Okay.
And it gives the designer something to work with better than, you know what I mean?
Okay. Moving on down, different wall system in lieu of tack boards on interior walls. And so the savings that we're listing is, in other words, is deleting 50% of the classroom tack boards from a typical classroom from the project. There's always an opportunity to add them back in on selected rooms as needed, but with so many classrooms, there's a potential savings of over $100,000 to
Can you
Reduce
guys
the
give them an
numbers.
idea of what tack boards we had, Bill? What the design you sent
Yeah.
us had?
Yeah, I believe we had them on the rear wall, so if that wasn't the teaching. Yeah, no, thank you. The rear wall of the classroom had more tack boards, and there was also, we'll show you coming up, there's an alternate for tack board on the door wall as well.
Yeah, sorry, Jody. I was just gonna say, there's a lot of talk about the classroom and the ownership of the classroom, and, I would say, think about what is gonna be on that tack board, which I'm looking at an empty one right now. In the future, what will that be, and if they're really needed?
Sorry, so I guess I wasn't sure if I heard correctly. This is just off of one wall, we're saying, and there will be other tack boards within the room?
correct.
So it's just off of one wall?
The rear wall, not the teaching wall, yep.
That's probably, in my opinion, it's probably a fine alternate, certainly rely on our experts for there. The only thing that I would say is we are looking at having multiple teachers utilizing rooms as opposed to having one person stay in a room. And so if that becomes a conversational piece of who's getting what tack boards, but I also think we're adults and can figure that out, so, you know.
But Randy, what you were saying, Randy, was, maybe I understood that, but, I mean, we're digital, right? And so, really, what are we putting on tack boards if we're sharing those rooms, you know, moving forward in the future?
Yeah, I'm saying,
$117,000 to remove one from every room on the back wall, that's a significant savings.
and if you remove them both,
The only thing that I would add in there is I was in the high school today in a few classrooms, and I tend to like tack boards in as many as we can get, because that's what the teachers are working with putting things on the wall. If you don't have tack boards, then they're gonna be putting on painted walls. And then when they come up and down over time, you know, becomes an issue with the paint. So, in my mind, I'm in favor of more tack boards, to give them more places to put their posters and their pictures and everything that they have. I know the protocol that we've had at Palmer and Cheston and the other buildings is when the teachers move into their new rooms, there's nothing on the painted walls, everything goes on tack boards. So if it doesn't go on the tack board, then it doesn't go up. So my opinion is the more tack boards in my mind, the better we are.
It's marker boards and
I
tack
agree with
boards.
the statement that if you don't give them tack boards, they're gonna put it where you don't want it, and obviously this comes with expectations that have to be set. I guess in my head, one of the things I was thinking, and maybe this is even, does tack strips versus an entire board make a difference? And I only say that because one of our hallways down the guidance office, where they often do hang information about college visits and I get we're digital, but there are still visual aids, you know, that will be pointed to in the classroom wall. So I'm fine with one wall. I think if there's other spaces, but I don't have an issue with that. But I just didn't know if a strip where they could hang something, and it obviously isn't tacked all the way, but.
So how many walls have the actual tack board then? 3, or just the front?
Just, the rear wall was tack.
This would be the elimination of the rear wall?
Yes.
And then there's no other tack boards in the room?
No, there are.
Where?
There's some in the front, and then, depending on what we do with the millwork, there's an option for a tack board on the door wall where the.
Can you have one, Mike?
Yeah, it'll take me a minute to get up.
Yeah, Mike's gonna take a minute. He's gonna bring up the sketch that you guys saved us, because the second one down talks about marker boards in those rooms too.
yeah, that's a good point.
So we'll give you a good idea of what we're talking about.
I'll fill in the time by just saying that, you know, I'm staring at a blank one. So if we're gonna, you know, put a big line item to them, just make sure that they're used. And they also help with acoustics in the classroom as well. And we do have a lot of hard surfaces with all the glass, so it wouldn't be bad just for acoustics.
Using Wi-Fi where possible instead of using hard connections. So in other words, when the teacher comes to their station, she wouldn't have a hard connection, she's gonna connect by Wi-Fi to like the marker board or the projector, whatever it is. We're gonna eliminate hard connections like HDMI cables to certain things. So
I'm gonna maybe ask Andrew and Gino if you heard that question to maybe chime in on an opinion on that one. We're looking at
I know where
number,
you're being.
we're looking at 100 with, going with Wi-Fi instead of hardwired.
So I guess it depends on the projector and the technology they use. It's always nice to have an option to plug in HDMI, not just in classrooms, specifically in meeting rooms, because if outside people bring their computers, sometimes they can't install the software that lets them wirelessly project. Like we have our Epson projectors, which require iConnect and iProject. A lot of like outside people that come in, they can't install their own software on their computers. And if there's any custom device that you can't install software on, like an Apple TV or a
And how about your opinion in classrooms? So I certainly understand in our large meeting spaces where we might be having outside presenters or even our staff presentations, but how about classrooms for general use? Do you have a different thought, or what is your thought for that?
Yeah, classrooms as well, because if they're showing video or, let's say, a movie or something like that, hardwired is always better than using the Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
So we
specifically,
get a lot of lag.
yeah, if you're watching video with audio, there's usually, there can be a lag with the audio, video syncing up. And it's just always nice to have that backup option of hardwiring, so you know there's not gonna be any issues.
That's what we,
And stability.
that's what we hear in other districts too. I mean, you know, just keep in mind, we put these in here and we have these discussions that we're looking for function. You know, we can save money, but does it function properly?
I think we have that down in the middle.
Speaking with Jamie personally about this and hearing the recommendation from technology, I would say, would certainly be to not go for the Wi-Fi. Not, I don't think it's being considered, you know, from the feedback that we've received in relationship to the price.
Okay, so I do have the rendering that Ally 5 provided us. I don't know if I can switch my window from my end, or if you guys have that ability to switch the window that I'm sharing.
Just hit stop sharing and then share your new.
Okay, thank you. See, the teaching wall has marker boards and 2 tack boards. And the secondary teaching wall has 2 fabric tack boards and a marker board. So that VE item we were looking at would remove one of these tack boards.
So there is another VE item, 2 down from that one. And it would be removing some marker boards and tack boards. So you would take one or the other. You wouldn't take them both. There would be nothing in the room. Okay, so, you know, either way, there's $116,000 you can save by moving tack boards, marker boards, taking one or the other off of this. You know, so again, we're in a VE. This came along since the process. Now we got a visual of what we can do and how to make that room. The budget had all of this stuff in it, okay? So we can save some money by eliminating some tack boards or marker boards here.
The classroom's really the workhorse of the building, and it's where kids are it's the most important environment, right? So you want to have it fine-tuned. Classroom walls are parallel, so that adds a lot of flutter in a room. With that little bit of fabric panel in the back, that helps to control that. So we have the ceiling acting, we have the people in the room acting, and we have the surfaces on the walls. So it really does help acoustically within the room.
And is there a price point difference between the tack board and the whiteboard if we were to have the space covered but make a choice between the two? Obviously, I think we need at least one whiteboard in the teaching space, but if they were thinking about options about what else needs to be covering the walls.
Yeah, if you wanted to have a mix on the back wall
Right.
of, yeah, we could probably.
They're very comparable
Yeah.
in price, yeah.
So we're saying the marker, the whiteboards acoustically is not absorbing the sound, correct? The only reason I'm asking is because I look at it as the whiteboards are also magnetic. So even if you wanted to hang something versus the tack board, but now we're talking acoustically, it's not as,
There's a marginal benefit to the walls being out of plane. So that half inch of tack board does help that all the sound doesn't hit the wall and come back at the same time.
I would opt to keep the whiteboard if I-
For instructional.
As a teacher,
Yeah.
Just-
instructional,
Right.
because, again, as was said, the magnets could be used just if they chose not to use it that way, but I get, the main wall up front is gonna largely be used for projection, and sometimes doesn't leave a lot of space for other, so
Yeah.
as a teacher, I think they would prefer the space to the right. Although,
Yeah.
Yeah, active walls, active surfaces are very,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sound is gonna be a thing, but
yep.
I think that's something to give.
Yeah, you could never, in one of the rooms I use at the community college, the whiteboard is almost probably the length of this wall back here. And I can fill it up. So I hate rooms that I get sometimes that have a whiteboard half the size of that. I think more is better, especially if it has a magnetic use and a use for display. If you can mix it up like that, I think that's best. Just from what I see, again, maybe every teacher's different, obviously, but I can see the benefit of having the whiteboard. The dry erase is just, I go through a marker a week, you know?
I mean, the more instructional, the more instructional area for utilization, the better. Yeah. Right, I mean, that's really more versatile.
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of good points made to justifying the existence for all the marker boards, so we're fine with recommending to reject the alternate to remove some. We're fine with that.
But we are considering rejecting some of the tack boards, right? That is still,
Yeah, we'll work on the final mix of surfaces on the walls
Okay.
with you guys during design development.
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. There's two VE items here. One's removing marker boards, one's removing tack boards. We're not gonna take them both, so we can say, we're gonna take one of them and then work to that mix, as Bill was saying, to get the room. The room won't look like what we showed in that image. It's gonna be different than that. But there will be a good mix that he'll go over with you in design.
Okay.
Okay. The next one, to have a low glare whiteboard that are magnetic for projection. So you want to install a separate pull-down projection screen. I don't know if I think you guys used the short throw, so you might want this anyway for that kind of dual use. And so it's actually a cost savings to have that dual use as opposed to a separate projection screen where you pull down the old-fashioned way. You guys have any other comments for this one? It's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I would suggest that's preferable.
Great.
I just add, with all the technology stuff, we revisit it closer to bid time to see what has changed since, it's gonna be a couple years from now, so I'll just add that.
Okay. This one's a big chunk of changes to delete all HVAC screening. Included in the budget right now is to screen either rooftop or ground HVAC equipment. This would eliminate about 1,000 linear feet of rooftop equipment screens, and it's $640,000 savings. Similar to the terrazzo on the floor corridors, this was everything. I don't know if we would recommend deleting all HVAC screens, but is there a way to look at certain ones that are not visible from high-profile elevations to maybe reduce in some way? But Randy, what?
Yeah, I'll just add that this is a good alternate, but what we have to be careful of is, we're going to start the process of land development through Palmer Township, and if you follow the story in the paper about the apartments on Hartney, Palmer has, they'll attach aesthetics and those things that you bring up into the land development process and want you to stick with it. And in the Hartney Avenue, they promised different materials, and they ended up building it out of vinyl siding, and it was a big issue. So we don't want to go through the land development process now saying we're going to cover up these units, you're not going to see them, and then take it out during the bid and have those folks disappointed. So it is a good alternate, but I just don't want to promise that along the way for any type of approval, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my next thought on this, I think, is to hold until design development to see where we're most exposed on certain equipment, and just, again, continue to look at it as the design gets refined. And maybe there's ways to pick off certain elevations.
Yeah, but I think what Randy's saying is the township may say, you gotta cover them anyway, so just make it an alternate.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, or if we show them renderings of the building along the land development process, and then we build it, and those screens go away, they're going to probably be a little
Yeah.
upset about that.
I'm not sure whether Palmer even has that. They might have it in their zoning code. Because I know they've changed that, and they might want screening on it now. would show them on the best way if you're gonna go in for the planning thing, is to go in without them if it's not in part of the code.
Yeah, that's what I agree. I think it would be a good alternate, though. My concern, and I think I said it a couple times, is like seeing the existing building and then the four-pipe HVAC system all on the roof, especially along William Penn Highway. Even the new building, when you're gonna be farther away, but you're still gonna be pretty high above the existing building, the new building, as you travel along William Penn Highway, just seeing those units, to me, that's what my eye goes to first. It's sort of like a pet peeve to me. There's other high schools in the area that are like that, and that's the first thing that I look at. And but an alternate, I think, would be good.
So I think what we're saying, Randy, is this would be a deduct alternate.
No, it'd be an ad.
It would be an ad alternate?
Take it to
Ad
Palmer
alternate?
Township without the screens, and then what you're saying, Randy, is if we do not take that alternate and we do not install the screens, then Palmer Township can't come back and have an issue with us removing something that was originally in the design.
So this would be an ad alternate.
Correct.
This would be an ad alternate, correct? Yep.
Great. Any other thoughts? Consider metal stud or fire-rated gypsum board in lieu of masonry shaft elevator construction. Potential cost savings and quicker time to construct, and then there's some noise transmission concerns, and the finish at the opposite wall may not be an acceptable finish or look. It's a small one for a cost savings of $40,000. Again, I don't think there's a big impact on the user end of things. This is more of an internal construction conversation.
I recommend block. I don't think it's gonna impact schedule. We're gonna have block in other sections of the building. Let's go with block.
Ken, I think that's actually our preference. Generally, they are block construction. It gets a little tougher, and the detailing's a little more finicky when we do metal stud framing, shaft wall, that kind of stuff. So our preference would be in line with the block or concrete.
Okay. Consider use of trap guards in lieu of trap primers. I forget, Ken, if you had a preference on
Yeah,
these?
reviewing
Yeah.
some of the mechanical stuff with our
Yeah.
maintenance guys, they asked for trap primers, in certain areas, mechanical rooms, but
Mhm.
trap guards are fine as well. So it would be, to go with the guards in lieu of the primers, we would say 44.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's sort of a wish list item for our plumbers.
right.
And typically, that would be for, like in mechanical rooms, you have floor drains in there. And on the bottom of the floor drain, you need water to hold back the smell of the drain. And typically, they don't get filled with water, so they dry out. And then your mechanical systems are there, and then a smell goes through that wing of the building. So from time to time, especially in the winter, our maintenance guys go around and they dump water down those drains to prevent that.
And the primer, you don't
The
need
pri-
to do that.
Yeah, the primer, you don't have to do that. It automatically just feeds a little bit of water in there so they don't dry out. Again, wish list items for our plumbers. But
Is this an option for an alternate? This seems pretty easy to kind of capture at bidding as an ad alternate.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
a
it's,
discrete scope of work, but it's also, if it's a preference by the district and a small amount of money, but, yeah, go ahead, Randy.
my take is it should be just something included in the project. We always get called back, the summers and the building's not being used, and then you're trying to get everybody back in the building. The traps are allowing gases through, and, the systems take it throughout the entire building, and it's almost impossible to get it to escape, so.
Yeah, I live in a 30-year-old high-rise, and I have this condition in our shower, and I am maniac about filling the drain that we don't use. It smells.
All right. Consider installing an air-cooled chiller on the ground as opposed to,
So wait, sorry, so
sorry.
go back. So where are we on that one?
it would be, we would not accept the savings to go from a trap primer to a trap guard. So we'd already included the primer in the project.
Okay.
So to go to a guard would be a
And
savings.
we want the primer, right, Kenny? That's what
That
you're
would be
saying.
preference, yeah.
Yeah, stop me if,
Yeah, I'm looking at the time, the maintenance, the whatever is cost variance between the two.
Yeah,
Cost
because Mr.
comparison
Guy
between
will,
the
he'll
two.
call me when we move into the building and he'll say, this wing smells, and
It's so common and frequent that it happens in buildings. It just,
it's the first thing I go to when they have smells in classrooms.
yeah.
That reminds me, I'll call you later.
You don't have any air handling units.
okay. Consider installing an air-cooled chiller on the ground as, in lieu of, on the roof of the building. You reduce the weight of the roof in that area and, may reduce the quantity of equipment needed, and you have a nice, easy area for maintenance, but you need to find the optimum location on the site.
Preferably right by the gym and the entrance where it is now, right?
Yeah.
Someone had this conversation and they,
And so Snyder Hoffman actually prefers to have it on the ground for those maintenance reasons and constructability reasons, but you just need to find the right spot. So I think building this size, there's maybe
Yeah.
some opportunity, but it's,
We had identified a spot for large items in the rear of the building, so we just need to verify that we can get everything in there.
Yeah, so looking at this from my end, I would share that preference with having it on the ground, but I think, you know, we maybe hold for some more design development so we can select that location and
agreed.
determine the best location for it, whether it be on the ground or the roof, but
yeah, I think if it's,
obviously you know my preference.
yeah, I think if it's on the roof, it'll end up in a pocket somewhere on the lower roof, screened from everything else.
Okay. So I'll write down that we'll consider this further in design development.
But remember, when you drive up to the existing high school, the first thing you see is a chiller.
All right. Consider water-cooled chillers in lieu of air-cooled chillers. Conversation with Snyder Hoffman as well. A water-cooled chiller, so like a cooling tower, reduce the weight of steel and provide a cost savings from the structure, but also may reduce the quantity of equipment. But you require a cooling tower, it's more expensive to install, and there's more maintenance, including a drain down in winter. So this is just looking at those two different mechanical design philosophies, and actually a water-cooled chiller is more expensive than an air-cooled chiller. So this is an example of us doing design due diligence, of just kind of verifying what makes the most sense for our building. We do a lot of install of air-cooled chillers, and, you know, that's what Snyder Hoffman had incorporated in the design, and that's what we had figured as well, but this is, again, just proving that check. Any comments from Alloy 5 on this, for this one? Or Ken, anything else?
I would say we need some more design development on this to look at it, but, so a water-cooled chiller is more than an air-cooled?
Yeah, because of the,
You need a cooling tower.
yeah, you need
Yeah.
You need a cooling tower.
I mean, it would be the similar system to what we have now and what we have at the middle school compared to air-cooled, which is what, at our other buildings. but-
Yeah, air-cooled has come a long way, and that's why you see the savings and what we factored into the design already. And I think this coincides to the next one, which you'll see is a TBD cost item, so we're not gonna come to any conclusion tonight, but I wanted to just talk about it, because it's gonna be a big design discussion with Snyder Hoffman, is just refining the HVAC system for the whole building, but especially the gym, the front admin area, and the auditorium. What do those systems look like? Is it one system or is it a hybrid? Basically, can those three areas operate independently of each other for redundancy, but also year-round use? I know the gyms, the auditorium, and the admin gets used year-round, classroom wing less so. And so these two items, and there's a third one in a little bit, kind of are all related, where we don't have all the information right now, but it's good that we've done a lot of work already to start to determine those advantages and disadvantages.
So if I can just say on 155, 156, and 172, we did reach out to vendors to get some pricing on it. Of course, we didn't have a whole lot of time to get pricing, and we didn't have a match of exactly what the designer's looking at. So these are really costs to show you that, you know, this is where they could be. We may be able to work more on some of these to get the pricing right once we have the exact designs, what the energy levels are in the building and what exact size it is. But, you know, we did do our due diligence to reach out and try and get, you know, narrow that gap of what a guess is, if I can say that.
There are a lot of potential benefits to this hybrid system, because you don't have to do a chilled water piping to those gym and auditorium areas, so there's a lot of labor and material savings in that. There are a couple more pieces of equipment that are required, but again, we're not asking for any decision tonight, but they're kind of the juicy items that we still have to look at in the next phase. Any questions or comments?
I just say Shane's not here tonight, but we're challenging him to, you know, to think differently and to not continue to do the same thing over and over again, and for us to allow us to have these discussions on what is the best value.
And for a building of this size, I think it's warranted to have an energy report for the different mechanical systems, an efficiency report, and then our estimating would go along with that. So you'd see, you know, this sort of system has this energy requirement, this equipment requirement, and then there'd be the cost comparison.
Yeah, just one general thing, you know, kind of think of a Murphy's Law thing. Every time I hear hybrid, I always seem to think that just means there are more things that can go wrong, and you're dependent on both to work for the whole thing to work. And if you have part of the hybrid system go down, then the whole system is down. But that's just more of a Murphy's Law observation than anything concrete. So I know it's still in the discussion phases, so we'll see what pans out in the, you know, further review.
I think you need to understand, though, these are big units, okay? So for cooling, and even for heat, there's different stages. There may be 4 or 5 stages on this. So you may lose a compressor, but you got some redundancy within the unit. You know what I mean? So when we say a hybrid, we're not looking at using the air-cooled chillers and the boilers and heating to heat and cool the entire building. We're giving you, the owner, the option to say, you know what? We're only going to use the auditorium and the gym and the admin during when school's not in session. That gives us the opportunity to turn down the heating and cooling in a large portion of the building that we're not going to be using. That's what we mean by a hybrid system.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for clearing, because that's
Right.
thinking of design things, of how well things work together and how well things work within themselves. I almost think of like modular when I think of those.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the right term, but it's how I'm thinking it. So
Sure.
you're describing to me that a system could fail or be not
Right.
operating efficiently or as expected. It wouldn't necessarily in this case
Yeah, there would be some redundancy.
be a pass or fail thing where nothing works.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right.
Thank you for clearing that up. Thank you.
No, it's a good question. Okay, so if there any other comments before, I'll put down it kind of for this item and the next HVAC one to hold for more information in design development. A couple more HVAC questions. Installed an EVR core, so like a heat exchanger rather than a heat wheel. Seeing this as a big add. In the design, we've assumed a heat wheel for those units as opposed to the EVR, energy recovery unit. But again, I think this conversation will continue with Snyder Hoffman as we talk about the design more in mechanical systems.
Agree with you. I need some more info on that,
Yeah.
Mike. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah. We don't typically install them on a building like
Yeah,
this, so.
yeah. So, yeah, just more
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
Be interested to hear more about it.
If we had a little more time for right now, but we'll keep moving.
Tomorrow, we'll
Yeah,
see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Minimize extra data ports if wireless infrastructure will be utilized. This would be in the classrooms and offices. So we're just trying to limit an average of 8 data jacks in a standard classroom to 2 data jacks and then 1 wireless access point on the ceiling. So again, when you multiply things by about 180, the costs add up. And going from 8 data jacks to 2 in a classroom is a savings of $210,000, give or take. Obviously, there's up for discussion about the exact quantity of jacks, but this just gives us a number to work with.
I have a question related, but not to this exact line item. Cheston, we did the floor boxes.
We did, yeah. So, and yes, yep.
We're not thinking that here. Or are
I
we?
don't believe so.
We really haven't had that conversation.
No.
That would be my question. It doesn't have to be answered
We didn't-
tonight. But,
Yeah.
but related to that could be another
I would sort of defer that. They are maintenance issues.
troublesome.
Having those, but, I would defer to the CNI team if there's, a need for that. My recommendation on this is I wouldn't really skimp in classrooms with network drops, especially having extra above ceiling. There's always times, that we're utilizing those for varying reasons. I mean, Andrew and Gino know that, so that's something I wouldn't skimp on. Bill made a good comment earlier, that's the heart of the building is the classroom, so I wouldn't skimp on those things in the classrooms.
Andrew, Gino, opinion on that?
Yeah, so with, in our ceilings, we usually run 2 cables for every access point. We typically only use 1, but we have another for expansion, or if that cable's damaged or something, we can quickly get a classroom back up and running. As far as the physical network jacks around the room, so you said there was 8, is that excluding what would be on for a wall phone? Because typically there's a wall phone by the entrance near the doorway.
We wouldn't exclude the wall phone one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, basically, yeah, nowadays, there's not a lot that we're plugging into the wall other than would be like a phone. And if a teacher is gonna have a phone at their desk, it would just be where they can put the desk in the room then. Otherwise, there's not a lot of equipment we plug into the wall jacks nowadays. So I wouldn't necessarily be against reducing that. With the floor jacks, I think, I would, especially when it comes to CNI, I feel like power would be more important than the networking in that
Yeah.
sense. But yeah, as far as nowadays, pretty much everything is wireless. There's not a lot that we plug into networking in the classrooms at least.
So currently, this item is suggesting going from 8 to 2. Is that appropriate in your mind, or do you see a different number, somewhere between 8 and 2 as more appropriate for classroom wall jacks?
I guess the question would be, are we planning on just having the wall phones and not phones on teachers' desks?
I would think yes, but I haven't had any discussion about that necessarily.
I would think they would stay on the wall.
Are they gonna have printers back? I mean, there's a lot of things you have to.
We don't have cords running to desks.
So I think what Randy said earlier, and I've been through a lot of school designs, and it changes, technology's changing so fast. I think we should say we're gonna consider doing this, but I think that design meeting, Randy, when we get into a classroom and go through what all the media is gonna be, where the projector's gonna go, and how the teacher's gonna plug in, and what we're gonna do, we should look at that. But I think what we should say, Mike, is we're gonna take this one, but we're gonna be real prudent to make sure that we get what they need, what your teachers need. Does that sound good, Randy? What do you think of that?
I think so. I think if we could look at maybe the middle school as like a mock-up classroom next summer, or I guess even the summer after that, put it all together and let's make sure we're all on the same page with it.
I even like to suggest, as we're going through construction, once they start putting walls up, we actually physically mock up a room.
Yeah.
And then have you guys come in and you select somebody as a teacher and say, yeah, this is what I imagine it's gonna be.
There was a time that we did add those drops at the high school before, what at that time was called the solace, that went along with the skin. So kids could see, but I would imagine technology's moved much beyond that at this point, so I don't think that's. I tend to agree with you, I don't think, I mean, 8, I think would be way, way over.
Yeah, but I think it would be, it might be more than 2, because what he's
Yeah,
saying,
no,
where's the
I agree.
teacher gonna go? Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Consider an alternate to install local sound system for the music rooms and the library. The listed estimate cost is based on allowance of $30,000 per space to add the local sound system in those areas listed for an add of $120,000.
Like, just
Yeah.
refresh this. What do you mean by the sound system in each place?
So a separate sound system within those rooms that can operate local devices, play media, that's outside of the intercom PA system
That's what I
and
was-
outside of a standard local classroom speaker.
I would say absolutely in the music room for
Yeah.
sure, because I think that's part of instructional playing and connecting.
Mhm.
The library, my question would just be based on the structure of the library, it's more of an open library to a hallway. So I think, I don't know if it would be as necessary.
Depends on what the vision of the media center is.
There are some closed areas of the library that we would possibly recommend, where people can record themselves doing presentations and different things.
Yeah, from that perspective, yeah, absolutely, that goes along with it. I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of
Yeah.
they could play
Yeah.
audio in that space.
Mhm.
Well, I know auditorium, that's,
Yeah.
I would just say as long as people can figure out how to use the sound systems, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, I would say sometimes it's a benefit to have a simple sound system in an auditorium as well as like the full sound system that like theater would use. Just because like if you're just setting up for just a speaker and a podium, it's nice to just have that simple system that a custodian can go and set up rather than going into the big soundboard and, adjusting things that might be set for specific reasons. It is nice to have that. Same thing with the gym.
I agree 100%, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think there's a great use of including this in the project. So for now, we're good with recommending including it.
And again, I think it's another one that we revisit with technology later to make sure we have the right systems.
Why the auditorium? Just,
Meets and practices. Yeah.
Yeah, or, I mean, if you have like a special event going on in there, senior day, they're announcing players.
We're talking about.
Swimmers.
well, you're not talking about the PA, though, you're talking about a local system.
I guess it would act the
Yeah,
same way.
it would act similar. I'd have to confirm if there was an assumption that there'd be a basic PA system
Yeah.
in the natatorium, but, we're talking about something more robust where.
That's
yeah.
why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a general PA system in there,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I would say it would have a PA with an amp and a
Yeah.
mic, and that would work like the PA system, like if they were doing announcements.
Right.
You would have the mic, and then, one would override the other for emergencies, like
Right.
things like that. But it's more of an upgrade rather than just like running a speaker, and a tap in a ceiling.
Right.
You commonly have in a classroom.
Exactly. Yep.
Because you definitely need the PA system and actually announce the swimming, the events and stuff like that.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Okay, so I think it's a great ad for now, but we'll confirm
Yeah.
exactly what was included before and what makes most sense for us. Okay? Only a couple more to go. Simple lay-in lighting in all classroom spaces. So a simple 2x2 or 2x4 LED fixture, so similar in shape to these, but not fluorescent. And this would be in lieu of a pendant light. So if you remember that rendering I brought up briefly where you had those two lines of lights in a classroom. The benefit of the lay-in light is the lower cost, and the disadvantage of higher connection costs, but also there's worse contrast and worse use of the space with these lights. I don't know, Bill, you want to discuss this a little more?
This is a great room to be in to talk about it. You can see a checkerboarding in the ceiling. It creates a lot of eye fatigue. It's much more desirable in a classroom to have direct, indirect lighting. So, you know, again, be it the classroom being the workhorse of it, we would recommend a pendant with direct, indirect, which creates a plane of light evenly across the room.
And just to reiterate, the pendants were assumed in the design, so in
Yeah.
the estimate. So this would be a potential savings of $460,000, big number, but again, there are serious design changes with that, design concerns.
If I can just add, you know, we're seeing some big numbers here. I think you need to consider that this is a big building, okay? So when you proportionally look at that number and then look at the overall number, what that value is, you know what I mean? And you're gonna have 170 some classrooms and other classrooms, that the lighting's not just gonna be that good.
Yeah. So if
So,
it's just quick, easy math, for the 460,000, it's about $2,500 a classroom, but over 180 classrooms, it adds up.
Randy, you were saying at the last meeting, pendant lighting is the industry standard right now, and, you know, it's just the light quality.
Correct, because you could do it direct, I guess you could do it direct, indirect with a lay-in as well, but it just gives you better light distribution.
And as far as alternates go, this one is a tricky one to make an alternate because you're really changing the design and the wiring of every classroom. And so to draw that and to price that gets tricky.
I think this might have been one of the items that I brought up. I spoke about it, I think, the last meeting. Sort of go with Mr. Snyder's comments about sort of keep it simple. That was my thinking, but, you know, if the consensus is the pendant lights, you know, that's fine too. I just think about it from the maintenance side and cost to replace and parts later on.
Yeah, and I said the pendants, you know, you got the dirt that's gonna collect on top of them. They do go out of style. You see that now in the existing high school where there's pendants that you can tell they're from the 60s. Yeah, so there's pros and cons to both, and I think it's a decision the district should make. We'll make anything work. But yeah, that's my take on it is.
And if we say, for example, no to this now, it's not like that's a closed book, right?
well, it would close fast.
It-
I mean, they're documenting, so they're in design development.
Yeah,
You know, so it's not like we can come back in 6 months and say, well, let's go back to,
Yeah.
you know, this is one, maybe we don't need to make a decision today, but we're gonna have to make one soon. Am I wrong, Randy, or what?
No, I mean, we definitely, yeah, we would want a decision soon. We'll make anything work. But our goal, I think, would be to hopefully not have to turn the lights on, quite honestly, and try to flood the room with as much natural light as possible.
How much difference would what you're gonna do with all of the other ones and what this room is?
Say
Is
that
it
again,
gonna
I'm
make
sorry.
that much difference in light?
Yeah, that's
Because everybody in here is older, and I don't think anybody in here, older than school children. But I don't think you have any trouble reading in this room, it's well lit. And you're gonna also have the availability of the daylight in the cases where it's in. You have $500,000 worth of savings.
Principal. No, I agree with the lighting. I know last time we were here, we even brought up the picture that we brought back from Upper Marion. I think the difference isn't enough to say that's absolutely necessary. I like the daylighting, and I like the idea of a clean, simple project. That's just my opinion.
Well, I was looking for Mr. Geiger.
Lay-in can't do the full dispersion to create the plane of light that evenly lights the room, and that's what causes the fatigue.
You can't use the white ceiling,
Yeah, yeah.
and we'll probably end up with rods sticking down for the daylight sensors.
Yeah.
So the lighting that will be in the classrooms, though, are they on like dimmer switches, or all of them will be have, I'm sorry, I feel like there's a, that you'd be able to turn them down, turn them up if it's, okay.
And then that's available whether it is pendant or lay-in.
That's correct, yeah. It's less about the light that you have on your surface and more about the fatigue of the high contrast versus almost no contrast.
School I do has the dimmers, but I'll check.
Not that the teacher can change the.
Can, from my perspective.
You hold the
It's a big
button.
savings on one person's need.
Really?
Yeah. Past couple, I'm done.
Guess I'm getting old.
I'll check.
Ken, you got classrooms with dimmers in them?
They do light harvesting. But
Yeah,
no-
yeah,
no-
they would dim from the daylight.
No
hours, so
manual dimmer.
No
dimmers.
manual dimming.
Yeah.
But they usually have presets.
Do they? Okay, all right. Remember, we took the
So-
cheapest lighting control system.
So where do we want
where
to
are we
end
at
up
with
with this
this?
one? Want to accept it and challenge Highway 5 to just, take a look and see where we can make a classroom that has an economical lighting system?
We'll take a look at it,
Yeah.
and we'll try to find some close examples, maybe where we can see some rooms with both.
I think that would be a good idea, Randy. I think so. So let's kick this one to DD, but pretty soon we're gonna have to start documenting it.
And then my only other question on this one is we often hear of, whether it be teachers or office, personnel who are either hanging something over lights or asking Ken's team to take light bulbs out because of the, probably what you're talking about, Bill, the eye fatigue. Is one better or worse from that perspective? And Ken, I guess, how many people really ask you to do that? Is it more office, office space, or do our teachers have a concern with having, all the lights on at the same time kind of situation?
Off the top of my head, I would probably say it's more office spaces. Teachers, I would imagine they just turn their lights off. I think there's very few, there shouldn't be any classrooms with, stuff draped over the lights. Usually when I see those, I bring them up, to the principal.
Part of my reasoning too, when it's not hanging, they can't do that, even though they're told not to, they can't, it's not an option. I would also say too, a large portion of the day in many of our classrooms, because of technology, is with lights off and projection. So I think the classroom lighting is, I'm not saying it's not important, but I think a lot of our teachers spend a lot of time because of that with the lights down.
So then perhaps, and I don't know that it's even feasible, but perhaps we are talking about this, whether you're talking about the inlaid in our classrooms, but perhaps the pendant in some office spaces that might be more sensitive to it. And I don't know if that makes sense or it doesn't, but certainly something for consideration.
Isn't the difference there all on dimmers now, though? They're not now on dimmers, but with the new lights, they will be. So they have that. Thank you.
That's what we were talking about here, like standard lighting, if they come with dimmers or not. And I know the CHA team was gonna follow up on that and see.
Yep.
If you're worried about them, you can even get them from, Lutron makes them where you can get the light switch and put it on your desk and have the dimmer right on there. You move it around, they just pop out. You can control lights, it's all wireless.
Okay, so we'll hold it for now, and we'll take a look at some options with lay-in lights.
There's a lot of options. We'll take a look. We have lights in our Allentown office that are magnetic in their strips that stick right to the ceiling grid. So there's a lot of options out there. We'll take a look at them.
Okay. Consider emergency lighting for entire rooms in areas like offices, restrooms, nurses' rooms during power outages. This would be in lieu of a single fixture or the minimum amount of fixtures in those rooms on emergency circuits. So this would be the entire room instead. It'd be a cost add of $80,000 and change. Improve some safety and security in those areas. And disadvantage is just the increased cost of the wiring and an extra pack.
Well,
per
it's
room.
it's increased the wiring and increased the size of
The generator.
The generator,
Yeah.
I would think bathrooms for sure. Outside of that, I'll defer to others' opinions.
So what our estimator figured it would be, estimated cost, that you can pull it up, why don't you pull it up? Go to the cost sheet on
What number was it?
224. 224?
224?
Yeah, you can see what our estimator did to develop these costs, we just didn't pull them out of the air. There was actually,
Hold on. It's slow. There we go.
so you can see what he did here.
So there is typical emergency lighting for all these rooms, which would be the minimum amount of fixtures. And then we did square foot takeoffs for each of these areas of what that added cost would be to light electrically all the fixtures in those rooms. And then these costs are tallied. Some notes for the takeoffs on the right. And then this sort of worksheet we'll provide as backup when the full report is generated in a month, so you'll, at your leisure, can read through all of them. I think it's, there's a lot of safety and security adds for this to have fully lit spaces.
I would just say that we all live here in the Lehigh Valley, and we all know that our power goes out quite often. I know you read the stuff in the paper where they're making improvements to it. I think this might be this is probably something that we probably shouldn't skimp on, considering how often we lose power, especially at the high school, here in this building.
Is it worth an alternate count, or you're saying put it in?
I would put it in. I would put it in. I would say if there would be any consideration in putting it in specific areas, I would maybe say like maybe the gang bathrooms off of the gym, or like the auditorium, where if you would have like after hours events that you would have 100% coverage, and maybe you don't do it in the bathrooms that are out in the classroom wing. You know, those bigger spaces too would be like a area of, what do they call that? Like an area, not an area of
Refuge?
refuge. You know, if there was some kind of issue, natural disaster, something like that, you know, typically you would usually have those air handling units or whatever feeds that space on emergency power, if you want to designate that, and I think it would be important to have light as well.
I kind of agree with Ken, and this is gonna go with item 195. Mike, if you could bring that up. So with 195, we were talking diesel fuel generators versus, with a 48 gallon, 48-hour tank versus, gas generators.
Natural gas?
Natural gas generators. So they would go hand in hand. I would suggest we say we want to do this, but we look at how we're gonna make these generators, what size generators they're gonna go with. Maybe less than that $80,000 if we can get generators. And this is a matrix where there's still some calculations we should be doing, or that has to be done, so we can size what size generator is and get the absolute cost of what it is.
Yeah, I agree with Ken's comments on those larger gathering spaces, gang bathrooms. I would also say perhaps our nurses' offices, because if it is a natural disaster, whatever the case
Yeah.
may is, that's your triage space.
Main offices.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we figured originally on 80,000, but, yeah, so I think we still have work to do on this, but it gives you an idea of what we're looking at. You know, there will be an added cost to get all those extra spaces under emergency power. Will it be 80,000? Maybe not, depending on how those generators are sized and what we can get. The thing is, the more emergency power you add, the bigger the generators get. And then you get into a realm where some of those generators could be pretty expensive. The cost goes up.
I do think it's something to consider also as a community resource in an emergency situation. And so having that emergency lighting in larger spaces like the gym, for example.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Can you even get, the gas, the diesel and gas ones in the different sizes? I thought once you get over a certain thing, it's a lot cheaper when you go with diesel.
That's what we're hearing, and I'm understanding that they're starting to make them more to natural gas. The one thing about natural gas is there's a code that says we gotta bury a tank. We gotta have like a primer tank, so we don't, yeah, natural gas. So those are things we still gotta flush out.
The other thing is too, is the amount of pressure that comes through the line.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
Underground.
So if they don't have enough pressure, we're gonna have to put a tank in, so we have a primer, you know what I mean? So that tank, they come off that tank till they can refill that tank.
Because you might even make sense as if you're gonna have two generators, and you're gonna have a diesel and a gas one, and then in a sense of failure, the gas will run forever.
Yeah.
But the diesel won't, because you'll have to
Well,
get
there's,
diesel fuel.
we would also have
48
to,
hours isn't very long.
we would also have to talk with Palmer Township. I don't believe that they consider natural gas an emergency resource. Because I know there was some comments about on Palmer Town, or Palmer School, where they did make an exception for that. We have a natural gas generator there, but we did have to do a few things to maintain that. My preference would be natural gas, because if a diesel generator starts up and you only have 48 hours, depending on how long the outage is gonna be, right away I'm calling local fuel companies to make sure that we have enough fuel. Generator exercises every week, you never start with a full tank. So you have a 48-hour generator, you have a half a tank, you have 3/4 of a tank, all of a sudden now you got a day. So when things like this happen, that's what we do in the maintenance department is I'm checking fuel, like how long is it gonna run,
Yeah. But I know the last time I put one in, and had to put a large one in, I almost had to go with diesel because of the cost.
Yeah.
So for now, we're going to say this will be an accepted VE item, but with our discussions to properly size and scope the generator, the number may change, but heard that the preference is to have these specific areas have full emergency lighting. Okay. We'll talk about 246 and the last one, 250, kind of together because they're both sod questions. Provide an alternate for sod in lieu of seed against the building and sidewalks. Sod looks great right when it goes in. You don't have to worry about the growth period for seed, and the disadvantage would be cost. I'll have to see what the exact takeoff was, but this is sort of a selected perimeter around the building, and high visible spaces would be an add of $124,000. Potential for an alternate as well.
I think this is a good alternate, depending on where things are at on bid day.
Yeah. I think it's a good alternate too. Any other?
Yeah, I agree. We've done it before.
Yeah.
Nothing better than fresh green grass though on opening day, so,
Right.
like that better than mud and hay.
That's great.
There's a difference too, longer term as well. Like, you're starting off with that. It does make a difference, obviously day one and, 5 years down the line.
But if we're picking up dollars, we're picking up dollars.
Good alternate.
Yep. And then the last one, just to jump around, is the alternate for the band turf field. So right now, it's considered a grass field, and this would be the turf, the whole band field. So that's between the classroom wing and the new auditorium. Again, a great alternate, just to see that price on bid day.
So Mike, I think, I'm pretty sure that they figured sod in that band area. That's part of that sod alternate, right? The band's between the two buildings,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So they figured on putting sod in there in this $124,000.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, if you put turf on the
Oh, I see what you're saying.
on the band field, this number would go down.
Right, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So,
So it wouldn't be 124,000 plus 1.2 million. It would be.
it would be 1.2 million less something.
Gotcha.
I think it's a good alternate.
All right. So the final two. Consider providing pervious paving for the new parking lots and driveways, and this would be more just the stalls. If you remember, we had a conversation about this, forget what meeting at this point, but the savings of this, of 135,000, is really from the reduction of the size of any stormwater management system that we need to put in place. So you get a large square footage of parking stalls that can become quote-unquote pervious surface, and you get a reduction of the structures you need to build underground. So there is some increased maintenance over time of those pervious parking pervious parking areas, but it could be limited. I think it's a nice potential cost savings. But again, we'll have to work with Colliers just to refine exactly where this makes the most sense if we want to accept it.
My opinion is I do not recommend pervious pavement. Everywhere I've seen them put pervious pavement in this area, they've had issues after the fact where they have to go back in, settlement, sinkholes. Basically, you're letting water drain through the blacktop into the ground. I always think of all the auto dealers off of the 33 exit. There's some pervious pavement over there, and they're constantly saw cutting and repaving. It's not something that I would recommend.
Any other thoughts or comments? I think it's a good point, Ken.
Yeah, I've been to a few buildings, I don't know, where were we recently that have it, but I can't speak to,
Yeah.
Maintenance of that, so Ken's our expert on that. I would rely on his opinion to some degree on this one.
Generally speaking, is pervious paving more expensive than impervious?
It is.
By itself, right?
Yeah, it is.
So
It is.
this savings is being captured by the overall stormwater
Correct.
reduction.
We're taking some stormwater reductions, correct? Correct.
And there's maintenance costs to it too, so
There-
you have to
there's post-
clean
There's
it.
post, construction maintenance you need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to clean it.
Yep, yeah. And they're starting to get pretty strict on post-construction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
So it sounds like a no, yeah.
Yeah.
Understood.
We haven't gotten all the stormwater management done.
Right.
Okay? So I think what we're hearing here, guys, is if they say, let's do pervious paving, we're gonna say, they're not interested in pervious paving.
Yeah,
So, okay, that's,
I'm taking it as we'll do it if we absolutely don't have to do it.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that could happen. We could have
To
to
be
do
some
it
very good
somewhere.
reasons on why
That's
we would
right.
need to
Then
utilize
we
it.
do it, yes.
Yeah, the site is sneaky tight with
Yeah.
trying to get all the stormwater management systems in.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
It's, right.
Agreed. All right, the last one. For the baseball and softball fields, do we want to have an impact pad under those fields, for the turf ones? Better playability on the fields, the main advantage. Disadvantage is just the material and install cost. The turf field budgets had assumed impact pads, and so it's a savings then to remove them from the turf fields. This would be in that first early phase work, utility infrastructure field work, and it'd be a savings of $217,000.
Again, Mike, I think it's a flagship.
Yeah.
So for me, athletic wise, I don't think you save the money there. I think you keep the impact pad there on both and.
Are we seeing that as pretty standard these days now on varsity fields, turf fields?
Because I would imagine it changes the playability, right?
Playability, safety.
Yeah. We do have the impact pad underneath the turf at the high school. The turf field, we do not have it down at the stadium. Different manufacturer. That's correct, right? I'm not flipping, reversing it. No, we have it at the high school. Yeah, because I remember looking at it when you guys were putting it down. Yeah, the turf at the stadium is a different manufacturer of turf and a different style of turf, more for football at the stadium.
Okay.
I think that there is a lot of components that come into the pad itself. I do think it's better to keep it as an alternate if there are going to be no other sports on it. If there's going to be other sports playing on the field, it's better to have the impact pad due to people falling on it. But for baseball and softball, the technology with turf nowadays has changed with the tufting, the infill with it. It's not a necessity for baseball and softball. If another sport comes into it and wants to play on it, it's better for kids' safety.
I think one of the points we made earlier, though, is that our teams could go out on the outfield soccer team, so I would say it's worth leaving it in for kids' safety, and I don't see exactly. We may use it for phys ed classes, kids could be out there, so I get that for baseball it's not necessary, but the versatility of the field, I think, is important.
So any other comments for this? If not, I'll put it for under rejected. And that was the last one. Yeah, not too bad. So, I'll clean up the spreadsheet just because we run through, there might be a typo or two, but, accepted VE items were a savings of 296,000 right now. That's just the number twos that we discussed today. So there are some that we'll revisit in a couple months, again, with how the design is progressing. We have 108,000 worth that we're gonna say, hey, we need more information on, and we rejected, almost a wash. We'll get specific number counts of how many items were accepted and rejected, but I think it was a good discussion.
So the
thank you.
296 doesn't have that 1.8 on the terrazzo, does it?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so, no.
I don't think so. We moved that to.
Yeah, no, I didn't, so that's a
Okay.
pretty true
All right.
number.
Yeah, that was a pretty
Yeah.
good number. Okay.
So
right.
yeah, thanks, everybody. I know sometimes it can get a little, get
Yeah,
in
I
the
just
weeds,
want to
but
say,
this was good.
so we actually are not done with VE. We still got
Sorry,
some
Bill.
work to do with structural steel, civil work, the site work, and HVAC. So, we'll print a report as of the end of September, but just know that this process is ongoing. You got a good view of what we do, how we do it, why we do what we do, and it was great. So this process is gonna be ongoing.
Okay, as always, I want to thank you for coming out and for your expertise. Mr. Diefendorfer, you're our one, person who's been here at every meeting, so thank you for coming out as well. We will see this group or some of this group on September 9th at our standing committee to present the Plan Con A and B, and then we'll look for our board to vote on that in September 30th, I believe it is. In terms of ad hoc, just a recap, we will not be meeting in September for ad hoc, but we will pick a date for October and get that posted appropriately. Okay? Absolutely.
Just about timeline, Carmen and I were invited to a meeting about a month ago.
Thank you, Meg.
They talked about timeline, and in the original schedule, it said that the first phase would not start until 2027. But then we all talked about how that was going to impact baseball and softball's programs. Our programs would be totally shut down with nowhere to go. So then the idea was, we're gonna move it up to 2026, start that construction on the field, where our JV field is now, get the turf field in before our next season. That way our three teams have a place to practice with lights. Obviously, that JV field, once that becomes turf, we may not get that for a year or two. So, just kind of wondering, because unlike tennis courts, there's not many baseball fields for us to go to, and you'd have to house three teams. There's no place with lights. Like Hackett's Park, but they want to charge you $150 a night for lights. I don't know where our teams would practice or be able to prepare or play if we don't start pushing dirt like in 2026.
So Randy, please correct me, but I think what we talked about last time was right after the spring season ends in 2026, this spring, that we would start phase one.
That's correct.
And hope,
Correct.
and hope for that to be completed prior to
So we
season
wondered,
20.
'cause we're wacky.
Yeah.
We're on the website all the time, and we didn't see it change. It still says 2027, so
Yeah, the idea
we
would
were
be
a
that
little nervous.
once you finish this coming spring sport, we would start. Hopefully, that doesn't mean you lose a fall. I know you play fall ball too, but I would see that as a worst case.
Yeah, just bear in mind that we're going to go through a lot of growing pains with this and have to be flexible, but that is our tentative schedule now. Yep.
Just worried about the
Yep,
where we would go with 3 teams.
right,
Really 6, because
right, softball, yep. Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight.